My fellow A-plusers, welcome back once again to a brand new episode. It is I, your host, as always, Adam Perez, and A-plus Morphinominal is back to go ahead and celebrate Toku Tuesdays around here on YouTube, guys. So thank you very much for certainly gracing us with your presence. As always, another stacked day of great reactions and reviews headed your way. But kicking your Tuesday off right, we've got Zenkaiger episode number 13 that we're going to go ahead and review for you guys this week. Another solid entry into this particular season, one that didn't floor me, but one that I certainly found enjoyable. Certainly had a couple chuckles here or there, really furthering the development of Kaido along with Zox, especially when it comes to some fantastic action sequences for our mechas this week, and a pretty fun villain, to certainly say the least, in Recycle World or Recycletopia as well, guys. So let's go ahead and dive into this episode, Zenkaiger episode number 13. Again, another fun, decent episode here that I certainly enjoyed, but for me, the standout probably had to be Recycle World, honestly. I love the idea here that he has the ability to recycle humans, so he kind of sucks them in and brings them back out, but he changes them into Kudaks. Now, it was pretty interesting that we had Kaido and Gaon in the very beginning of this episode. Thought that he was actually Trash World for a minute. It's almost like, no, we don't have Trash World, but we got his brother, Recycle World, just as good in here, as we get to see him really causing a dilemma for Gaon as he turns humans into Kudaks, and we wind up having our Zenkaigers having to go ahead and fight against them. And if you know anything about Gaon and his love for humans, this was a tough one for him here in this week's episode. But going back to Recycle World, also, not only did I think that was a pretty cool ability itself, but also at the end during his mecha battle, the ability to recycle some of the older villains that we've seen so far. So like Ice World makes a return, I believe Boxing World is there, Sushi World is there also, along with a couple others, but really forming a little bit of a recycle team, if you ask me. I think they wind up actually calling themselves, they did give themselves a name, Recycle Sentai Giant Worldger was in fact their names. And the fact that Sichin kind of pops up in the middle of this battle to give us a little bit of a history lesson when it comes to Super Sentai, that past Super Sentai teams have had villain teams villain Sentai teams that they have certainly had to face off against. So they even showcased like the Psycho Rangers in here that were adapted from, that were eventually adapted into Power Rangers for their Psycho Ranger side. But they popped up in here also in one of the photos, some other villain Sentai teams. So the fact that our Zenkaigers have a villain team that they have to face off against, I thought was pretty brilliant. And the fact that they're actually mechas made it even that more unique. So pretty clever stuff, honestly. We even got a pose out of them, a roll call out of them. I think it might have been Vroom or Jurin asked, like, did you guys have to practice that sort of thing? So again, coming through with the laughs to certainly say the least, but I thought it was pretty clever and pretty witty to go ahead and actually give them a mecha sort of villain Sentai team. I thought it worked out relatively well. Let's see here. Really great action pieces for this mecha battle. Maybe even reuse some footage that we've kind of seen in past fights. Also, kind of maybe some of that stock footage that they had already filmed from some of the previous early episodes. But the Zenkaiger team sadly doesn't stand a chance in this episode, as they wind up quickly falling to this particular team. It's really not until Twokaiser winds up showing up on the scene with the Twokai-Oh Ricky, giving Ricky the opportunity to go ahead and shine. I believe the previous episode it was Kataner in his Shinkenger form, if you will. This time around, though, it's Ricky that's getting to go ahead and drive the Zords, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So we got the Twokai-Oh Ricky debut. Love his attacks. Also, I think he's got like 3 special attacks that just look great, like a Gatling gun sort of thing, which sounded and looked incredible. He even has like a Kung Fu or karate mode where he's doing a couple of kicks himself. What was the other one? Oh, he had a gigantic chomp that like sucked you in like a vacuum and then chomped down on you sort of thing. So some really great attacks, very powerful. I mean, considering the fact that our Zenkaiger team two combinations, mind you, of Zenkaigers, still couldn't defeat these guys at all. And you got one from Twokaiser that goes ahead and takes care of quite a few of them. And then you also have Stay Caesar, who winds up popping up into this battle at the very end to make his presence known, taking out yet another one of the villains also. It did always make me scratch my head. Like, even though I understand the fact that Stacy or some of these villains may not necessarily be working alongside with one another, you know, if you want to go ahead and take out Twokaiser or the Zenkaigers, you're going to need all the help that you can get. So there's no point in destroying these other people because now Stacy has to face Twokaiser one-on-one. And while the Battle Caesar Robo is extremely powerful, to certainly say the least, I would be interested to see exactly what that battle is going to look like, or if he can even stand up against Twokaiser one-on-one. The last thing that we've been seeing is that Stay Caesar really has trouble in holding his own when it comes to battle. He's retreated more times than I can even count, honestly. So I will be interested to see if he actually stands his ground when it comes time for him, along with Twokaiser, to actually go ahead and face off, because we actually ended off in a little bit of a duel between those two as this episode went on. So you know, as the episode concluded, I should say. So I'm expecting a big battle between these two. How long it's going to be, I'm not quite sure. But you want to talk about some impressive mechas? Yeah, Twokaiser and Stay Caesar are bringing the heat, and poor Zenkaigers just can't keep up with it. They just cannot keep up with it. It's almost like they already need an upgrade when it comes to power at this point in time, because everybody else just seemingly keeps flooring them. So we'll see what happens between them. But really great stuff when it came to not only the action pieces this week, but the mecha battles as well in here. Let's see here. One of the other things that really continue to jump out at me definitely is the Twokaiser situation that we find. You know, we did a video a couple of weeks ago about the idea of, you know, will Stay Caesar and Twokaiser sort of switch alliances? We have been seeing them kind of working alongside the Zenkaigers for a short period of time, but you quickly continue to find out that even though they're kind of assisting and helping out the Zenkaigers from here or there, Twokaiser, along with Flint, Gold Tweaker, and the brothers, they clearly do have their own ulterior motives, right? Their own things that they're certainly trying to achieve for themselves, not really ever on the same page with the Zenkaigers when it comes to protecting humanity and its people. And I love the fact that there's an enemy in Barashitara that has actually picked up on the idea that these two kind of collide and butt heads when it comes to their ideologies. And so the fact that Barashitara is pretty smart enough to go ahead and egg that situation on, right, by throwing in some fake Toji gears, because we know that Twokaiser is trying to find one Toji gear, specifically in SD-topia, to go ahead and return his brothers back to normal. So Zox is very much sort of fully focused on trying to go ahead and take care of his brothers and his family, and he doesn't care if these humans have been turned into Kudaks at all. He just wants to go ahead and take them down so he can go ahead and acquire these Toji gears for himself. What I find interesting, though, is that even though Zox picks up on the idea that the Toji Tendo and Barashitara are doing this all for a trap, he still wants to go out there and kick these humans' ass in order to go ahead and get these Toji gears. So again, you immediately just get that bumping of heads between him and Kaido, along with Twokaiser and Gaon that we see in this episode, who again continues to put himself in front of the humans, sacrificing himself, if you will. Great shot of seeing Gaon kind of jumping right in front of Zox's pistol, if you will, or his shooting, to go ahead and protect the humans from being harmed by him. Really an attempt, because of the fact that we all know exactly how much Gaon absolutely loves these humans. So despite knowing that it's a trap, Zox still certainly goes out there and tries to do his part in getting these Toji gears, even though Kaido and the rest of the team don't necessarily agree with them. And though while Kaido is certainly willing to throw away his dignity and dress absolutely ridiculous and go out there and like tickle some of these enemies, while we do see somebody like Zox kind of laugh it off and tell Kaido he's being absolutely ridiculous, and eventually does go on to finish the fight. If you ask me, just because he laughs at Kaido, I don't think that changes his mindset and the way that he's gonna be approaching things, right? Of Jurin, along with Majin, certainly came out in this episode and just said, look, you should just stop trying, because he's so focused and so hard-headed and stubborn in his ways that maybe some people you just can't bring over to the light side, if you will, right, and kind of convince. So I get what Kaido was certainly doing to try and prove a point to Zox in this episode that, listen, you don't have to just thrust yourself into these situations and harm people that don't necessarily need to be harmed. There are other ways you can certainly go about it. I just don't know if that's Zox's style. So even though he laughed and he certainly worked alongside the Zenkaigers, I think just based off of the preview that we see next week, I still don't think that he gets it. I still don't think that this has changed anything for Zox Goldtweaker. And I'm really eager to continue to see these characters butting heads. Even though Barashitara's plan may not necessarily have worked to fruition in this episode, I do definitely think he planted the seeds that he certainly need to continue to separate the Twokaisers or Twokaiser along with the Zenkaigers, and it seems as though we're finally going to have that duel next week. Now, I don't think we know exactly why they're having a duel, but just seeing just how different their ideologies are, I think we might be able to figure out a reason as to why they're certainly fighting against each other in next week's episode. But I do continue to love this storyline between Twokaiser along with the Zenkaigers, and I will see what happens. Like I said before, we did do a sort of theory and speculation video. Will stay Caesar turn onto the side of the Zenkaigers and Twokaiser eventually separate and maybe go more Toji Tendo side of things? We'll see exactly how that winds up forming itself out, but things are happening. Things are definitely happening, to certainly say the least. When it comes to Gaon, look, I get his reasoning for doing things. I appreciate him having a love for humans and wanting to protect them. He still certainly rubs me the wrong way, though, and just comes across as overly annoying. I don't know what it is. I think just because of the fact that maybe he loves the humans so much but really hates himself, or hates his own people, if you will. I would like to know more about that. I really would like to know more of a behind the scenes of Gaon and maybe a backstory to kind of see why he feels certainly the way that he does. But just the over infatuation of humans, putting them first above all else. Well, I get it. That's probably a very Super Sentai thing for him to definitely do. Sometimes he just comes across very annoying in the process of doing that. While I do admire him for some of his abilities, like I said, I appreciated the fact that he stood in front of the humans to try and take Zox off his game and kind of prove a point. But sometimes it just seems a little bit annoying to me. The whole idea of the Zenkaigers, dressing up again wasn't my cup of tea, honestly. I felt like they could probably have done that, accomplish the same exact things without having to look absolutely ridiculous and lose respect for yourself in the process. But that's why you got fingers, man. People, you can still tickle people with fingers. You don't got to get all feathery and things like that. But that's just Super Sentai for you, man. They just sometimes they dive into these weird, let's dress up as something else sort of motifs for an episode, and that's exactly what we wind up getting with a bunch of Brazilian-like lingo. I don't understand where that was coming from, honestly, but who certainly knows. But let me see here. A couple quick honorable mentions. Some things that wanted to bring up. Sentai gears that were certainly used. We see the Deca Ranger gear used along with the Goanger gear as well. And one of the cool scenes I thought in here when we got to see the roll call for our Zenkaigers, when after Vroom winds up doing his roll call, he winds up transforming into like a little mini truck that winds up carrying the rest of the Zenkaigers a little bit forward to go ahead and catch up with Gaon, who's already done his charging. I thought that was pretty awesome to kind of see them just make sure that they're all in line with the rest of their team and actually caught up to Gaon. So I thought that was a pretty neat little maneuver there that Vroom wind up kind of putting together. But fun villain this week. Gaon certainly got some shine in his love for humans and showcasing just the lengths he would certainly go to go ahead and protect them. Again, I continue to love Twokaiser's mentality and the idea of just doing whatever it takes to go ahead and save your brother. And again, even though he does laugh at Kaido, I don't think that laugh means we're fully on the same page yet. I am still fully expecting some clashing to certainly go ahead and go on between those two. And then, of course, rounding out this episode with an incredible mecha battle here, as we got to see everybody really putting their best foot forward. Unfortunately for the Zenkaigers being taken down, but Twokai-Oh Ricky and Katana from the last week, incredible combinations that I'm really looking forward to seeing how they're utilized in the future. And of course, Stay Caesar making his return at the end of this episode also. So really set it up for a great episode next week. I definitely will be keeping my eye out for it. And again, while I thought this was just a solid entry, I really do hope that next week kind of floors me and puts me on my ass. So I'm really looking forward to it, guys. But look, I want to know your guys' thoughts. What did I certainly miss? Is there anything in particular that jumped out at you that you certainly want to go ahead and continue to talk about, whether that be character development, storylines, plot details, villains, whatever the case may be? Definitely let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below, guys, and we'll definitely go ahead and tackle more of this episode with you guys there. But until next time, do me a big favor, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and until next week, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.